This video discusses psilocybin, as found in magic mushrooms.
This is not a recommendation, rather an account of a legal and overseen experience.
You should consult your doctor and check local laws to ensure they are healthy and legal for you.
It has been a few weeks since I had my first ayahuasca experience. Now, I've been aware of and interested in an ayahuasca ceremony for nearly 20 years, and I waited till I got the calling recently. Now, perhaps I've done way too much research on ayahuasca, but I had very high expectations and very specific expectations going into this ceremony. Now, I'll deal with the logistics and the experience. We arrived at a beautiful location in Mexico, where a Brazilian shaman would be leading us. There were about 25 people participating in a circle, with an unusually higher age demographic compared to the mushroom ceremonies. It was a beautiful night in the mountains, and the setup took quite a while. The shaman was there with his family, including his wife, and they were celebrating their 52nd anniversary, which was an added bonus to the experience. When it was finally time to take the medicine, we were each given a plastic spoon and told to hold on to it, as it would be our means of taking the medicine as needed. We then approached the shaman's wife, who distributed a spoonful of the medicine, which was mixed with a paste much like Nutella. This was relatively easy to take despite most accounts that I've had of ayahuasca, where it is a tea that was not so tasty. I waited about an hour and I felt no effect at all. So having waited for 20 years for the experience and noticing other people were going back up for a second serving, I approached to get one as well. I waited another hour and don't think I felt anything, so I approached again for a third, and I finally felt a little different, but not enough. So to what seemed to be the dismay of the shaman, I took a fourth dose. Now, shortly after that, finally the medicine seemed to begin working. As with most plant medicine, you are supposed to enter into the experience with an intention. I came with very specific intentions, which were rather grand. I wanted to see all my departed loved ones and departed enemies, and resolve any unresolved issues that I've had. I have been told by many friends that they had this experience with some individuals in their lives. Now, the hallucinogenic experience I felt was very light. It was not as strong as that which I had had using psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and although I did start to perceive my reality in a different dimension, I would venture to say it was even only a one-dimensional reality. I did seem to get a lot of information in the form of downloads. Unlike the mushrooms, Mother Ayahuasca was very direct. My request was not honored in the way that I had hoped. Rather, I got the message that the mushrooms had already answered that question for me. If you have watched my videos, you'll see that I've already been told that we come from nothing and return to nothing, so there would be no loved ones or enemies to meet up with, as they were all illusory in the first place. I was also told that if I wanted to see them, I just needed to recreate them. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. Now, I didn't see any demons, which was odd because almost everyone I know who has done ayahuasca has encountered demons. I was glad because that was one of the things I didn't like about what I had heard about the medicine. There was a period of time in which I think was hours where I stared straight up into a full moon that was directly above me to what appeared to be a one-dimensional tree, and the moon did not move for several hours. I felt like if I put my hand up there, there would be a cord that I could pull and turn off the moon, which is actually just a huge light. Now, at least this is how my mind perceived it at that time. Eventually, as the medicine began to wear off, the moon did start to move. This wasn't surprising, as I've had mushroom trips where the moon has gone in one direction and then come back. Now, throughout the evening, there were some gentlemen who were assisting the shaman, mostly by caring for the fire, but suddenly they became the only musicians there. And this was not the music that I've grown accustomed to at mushroom ceremonies, or even ayahuasca playlists. This was very tribal drums and beautiful chanting. It was through this that I sort of learned that sound is a big part of life. And the drums made it very obvious that sound helps create the illusion of space and time, which does not exist outside our finite reality. My brain did the usual trickery it does when on psychedelics, and that it has changed different people's appearances drastically. And also the music would seem to be coming from one place, and then it was actually coming from another. The music that was essentially drums and sometimes maraca-sounding instruments was rare, and more often the shaman was praying or chanting. Often this was right by the fire. Throughout the circle, the people were throwing up as instructed right in front of them. When this happens, some ash from the bottom of the fire is thrown on top of the vomit, and all is well. However, I was just laughing every time somebody threw up because I had heard that this meant they were purging trauma or a demon. Now, it was like on most psychedelics that was something I just found funny, and it was nothing against the people who were going through the experience. However, I felt a tremendous amount of pressure to throw up from the people around me, sort of like this skit.
Yes, I can. Oh, don't make me sing.
Oh, really, I could just play if you'd rather.
Well, I don't have a choice. They're making me sing. Are you sure you want to make me sing, everybody in the room? I guess I have to now, right? Right? You're making me sing.
And so it became funnier and funnier to me. I just didn't feel like throwing up at all. So there's more tribal singing and slight hallucinogenic effects, but no leaving of my body that I can remember, or that I can even suggest based on encounters I've heard about. It seemed like the morning was coming and the shaman was at the fire praying or chanting. It's in Spanish, so I have no idea what he was saying. He did seem upset with me for having 4 doses and mentioned it throughout the night. For some reason, I did understand that. He said that I should have trusted the medicine. I'm wondering if it was because I had waited so long and I was just extremely overzealous and had super high expectations of this medication. However, at the time that he was chanting or praying, I don't know what he was saying, but my body did have a strong reaction to it. I wanted him to stop because I could feel my stomach churning. He kept going and suddenly all bets were off. I got down on all fours and made Linda Blair and The Exorcist look like an amateur. I went on to have about 5 of these vomiting sessions. At one point, the guy who puts the fire ashes on top of the vomit looked at me and said, "You owe me." Now, I'm not sure if this was a reaction to the medication in my stomach, like a physical reaction, or if this was a spiritual cleansing. Going down the medicine didn't bother me really at all, and it sat for quite some time without bothering me, so why 6 hours later would I puke? It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to me that I was indeed purging something negative from my so-called body. As the sun came up and the clouds began to appear, they took amazing forms, which were actual images of things from my reality. I'm not talking about picking clouds and finding optical illusions in them. I'm talking about seeing literal, detailed images of people and objects in my reality. My partner who was with me even agreed on what we were seeing for several of these formations without me having to ask. When it was over in the morning, the shaman wanted us all to stand up, which I attempted to, but I was going to be nauseous again, and I was also lightheaded. Now he was strumming a mandolin and singing in Spanish and walked around to each of us as if sending forward a special prayer in music. Another download of information that I received vividly was how music had essentially been invented to expand our illusion of this finite reality. In fact, this download showed me how from the beginning of time, we have simply added more and more to our world that affirm our false finite reality. In the beginning, there was nothing, so everything has been an invention that came from the first time God or consciousness wanted to observe itself. I truly wonder what it would have been like if while in the medicine, there was more traditional music. It was the silence and the chanting that were the most difficult to deal with. However, this was not like a mushroom experience. This was ayahuasca, and it was not meant to be the same. Personally, I think I went in with a very specific idea of what would transpire, and then I resisted what probably might have occurred had I not had a preconception of what should occur. I will definitely have to try ayahuasca another time and be sure to go into it with no preconceived notion. I've learned how to get the most out of psilocybin, and I would liken it to anything that you can do that expands your finite mind. There is nothing that I enjoy more than music and mushrooms so far. I know that some people can get there through breathing exercises and meditation, but I'm not there yet. All I can say is it does appear that we are making all of this up, so we should love it.